Spain just won this year's World Cup, and LEGO dropped a set for it the same day. It's the same as the original World Cup trophy set, which has a minifigure and the World Cup logo hidden inside. But Spain's has their flag and their name as the winner of the 2026 World Cup. The original trophy also has this circle on the bottom with every World Cup winner, and Spain's version adds their name for 2026. However, people noticed that England was missing from these names. They won in 1966, so why aren't they here? Well, the FIFA World Cup trophy debuted in 1974. Before that, it was the Jules Rimet Trophy. England won in 1966 and hasn't won again, so they technically haven't held the FIFA trophy, which is why LEGO didn't include them. This isn't the only detail LEGO stole from real life either. The real World Cup trophy is hollow. It's made with 18-karat gold, so if it wasn't, it'd be super heavy. However, this gave LEGO the perfect chance to sneak in some Easter eggs. There's an entire compartment inside the ball where you'll find a bunch of crazy details. For one, there's a mini soccer pitch that's actually removable, but the number 26 is built into the backdrop out of tiles to represent this year's World Cup. This is actually the logo for this year too, so LEGO didn't come up with it. But obviously, the coolest part is the minifigure. It's exclusive to this set and has one of the best looking head coverings I've ever seen. And even the accessory it's holding is special too. It's a mini replica of the trophy itself, and it's the first time it's ever been seen in LEGO. Just like the minifigure, it's exclusive to this set and will probably be one of the rarest pieces in LEGO once it retires. But this isn't the only Easter egg inside the ball. There are removable panels all over this set, but the ball has two. The bricks behind the second one look completely random, and they are, except for these three at the bottom. They represent the different cards in soccer: yellow for a warning, red for an ejection, and the very rare green card, which is only used in certain leagues. It isn't used in FIFA, so honestly, it doesn't really make sense for it to be here, but I guess that's why it's buried in the set. But let's move on to the soccer ball set, because this one's got a lot more going on than you think. It's based on the size 5 ball that's used in official matches, and the only way LEGO could make it so perfectly round was with Technic pieces. So yeah, it's a little harder to build, but the payoff is crazy because there's an entire micro soccer stadium inside the ball. LEGO was very specific with the details in this set, even down to the micro figures. They used the exact amount that are allowed to play on the field, and they even gave one of them a different jersey to represent the keeper. But this set isn't just for show. There's a play feature too. There's this little tab right below the stadium, and if you press on it, the stage the micro figures are on and the fireworks behind them move up and down, like they're celebrating the win. However, what happened with the World Cup emblem set sparked an entire debate online, and it has nothing to do with LEGO. Remember earlier when I said that backdrop was the number 26? Well, it's actually 2026, and if you think it looks weird, you're not alone. FIFA's official logo for this year is kind of hard to make out, but you're supposed to read it in columns. It's especially difficult when there's a brick-built trophy in the way, which is why people were so confused with LEGO's set. People also thought the logo said 2206, which is only natural, but no. For some reason, FIFA decided to make the logo weird, so LEGO was just following suit. But there's something about this set most people completely ignore. Obviously, it can be propped up, but this mechanic can turn into a hook to hang it on a wall. LEGO does this in the art theme all the time, and even though this set isn't part of it, obviously it's meant for decoration. But the most popular sets LEGO dropped for the World Cup were the player highlight sets. They made these for Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, and Vini Jr., and they all have very specific things in common with each other. For one, it's the first time any of these guys have gotten an official minifigure. And even better is that LEGO didn't keep them behind a $500 paywall. Each of their sets is only $30, so they're super accessible. But another thing they have in common is that the base is all of the players' first initial. Messi and Mbappe got M, Ronaldo got R, and Vini Jr. got V. Obviously, they all match their team's colors too, but that's far from the only details in these highlight sets. In Messi's, there's a row of 5 brick-built houses in the back, and each one is a reference to a different club from his career, and they even got ones from his childhood. The orange and blue house is for Abanderado Grandoli FC in Argentina, the first team he ever played for. The red and black house is for Newell's Old Boys. The red and blue is obviously for Barcelona. The navy blue is for Paris, and the black and pink is for Inter Miami, where he plays now. This isn't the only place LEGO referenced these teams though. The base of the set has the flag of every team too. There's also a brick-built goat in the middle, which is super sick. But what about these 8 studs? They seem random, but they actually represent the 8 Ballon d'Ors Messi's won over his career. He holds the record for this award, and this isn't even the only trophy LEGO referenced either. The 3 stars on top represent his 3 World Cups. Remember, this set is only $30, so his minifigure probably made LEGO lose a ton of money. First of all, literally every part is brand new and complicated. The arms and legs are dual molded, the legs have printing, his torso has his jersey, his faceplate is brand new, and he's the only minifigure with this hairpiece in reddish brown. But the craziest part by far is the tattoo sleeve on his right arm. They aren't accurate to the ones he has in real life, since that would be pretty much impossible, but the fact that LEGO even did this at all is pretty surprising. Arms with this much detail are so expensive to make, so it makes sense why LEGO didn't put the sleeve on his leg too. That would just be way too much money. But there's actually something else in common with these sets that I forgot to say earlier. They all come with a tile piece of the player's signature, except for Messi's. Apparently, this isn't his real one. LEGO was able to get the rights to every other player's autograph, but for some reason, they couldn't get Messi's, so they just made a fake signature and kept quiet about it, which is pretty funny. But let's move on to the Ronaldo highlight set, so I can talk about these mountains in the back. Ronaldo was born and raised in a country called Madeira, which is an island off the coast of Portugal and is known for its beautiful mountain ranges. The Central Mountain Range is actually considered a national monument and takes up over 20,000 acres on the island. Ronaldo is very in touch with his home country, so it only makes sense for LEGO to do this. But according to the designer, there are 7 Easter eggs hiding somewhere in this set, and I definitely couldn't find all of them, but I found a few. They're all hiding in the base of the set, so you can't see them once you build the whole thing. You place these 3 tiles right next to each other, which is probably referencing Real Madrid's three-peat in the UEFA Champions League. There are also these 3 different colored bricks with shiny silver studs next to them. And I'm not 100% sure what this means, but Ronaldo wore all 3 of these colors when he played for Real Madrid. And if he won championships in all of them, the studs would probably represent the trophies. But there's no room for doubt with these next 2. Not only did the designer add the Juventus, but he added a brick-built goat with horns like the one Messi got. It's not as crazy as the entire piece they made for Messi, which I'll get to later, but at least the 2 goats of soccer got some form of praise. But then there are the obvious stars for the World Cup wins and the less obvious golden cones, which there are 5 of in the entire set. They look pretty good once the whole thing is built, so they could easily be taken as a design choice. But they actually represent the 5 Ballon d'Ors Ronaldo's won in his career. This is by far the most subtle reference in this set, at least I think. But what about his minifigure? Well, it's just as detailed as Messi's, so clearly LEGO wasn't cutting any corners with these sets. One of his arms has the captain's patch printed on it, and his legs are dual molded with printing on the front and the sides, which we almost never see. LEGO even made sure to get the CR7 logo on his cleats, but the best detail by far is on his faceplate. One side is just a regular face, but the other is one of him saying his catchphrase. There isn't nearly as much emotion in it as there is in real life. so it kind of looks like the one where he said it really quietly on the boat. But honestly, it's still the best detail in this whole video. LEGO made sure it wasn't just a reference though. It's his catchphrase, so they built it out of tiles right at the front of the set. If you love Ronaldo, this is quite literally the best $30 you could ever spend. The other two highlight sets pretty much have the same kind of Easter eggs, so instead of going over those, let's look at the Ronaldo Soccer Legend set. This is a brick-built version of the man himself hitting his famous pose after he scores a goal, and he looks incredibly good in LEGO form. Obviously, one of his main things is his physique, which he's known for, and LEGO did the funniest thing to capture it in LEGO. They have this piece that they usually use on stuff like cars, since it's so rigid and bulky, but they used it for Ronaldo's abs in this set, which is absolutely hilarious. But they took a different kind of shortcut in the Messi Legend set. Just like Ronaldo, Messi looks incredible in LEGO, but if you notice, he's wearing high socks, and Ronaldo isn't, and it isn't for no reason. Remember how Messi has tattoos all over his legs? Well, LEGO didn't want to have to make them like they did for the arm on his minifigure, so instead, they just gave him really high socks to cover them up. And honestly, I can respect it. It would cost a lot of money to remake these in LEGO. Messi also got the Messi Celebration set, and it's the most expensive one in this entire wave. It's for good reason though. Obviously, it looks really sick, but the details here are unlike anything else LEGO made for the World Cup. The craziest thing about it though is that it was designed by a brand new LEGO designer named Zio Chow. He started out as a fan designer on Instagram, and the first official set he designed was the Chrysanthemum in 2024. Since then, he's been slowly working his way up in piece count and complexity, with his most recent banger being the Nike Dunk set. But Messi Celebration is way better from a design standpoint. Making a human being out of bricks is already pretty difficult. I mean, we've seen it fail a bunch of times, and Zio had a way harder job than usual too. It's come up a lot already, but Messi's tattoos are a staple of his look. So if Zio was gonna make this set look good, he had to improvise, and he did. The tattoos are made up of hot dogs, whips, paint rollers, and some other completely random objects, but they actually work really well. And the crazy thing is, Zio somehow still had the brain power to add Easter eggs to this set. There's a little compartment you can pull out, and it's basically a shrine to Messi. This is the set with the goat piece that has his number on it, which is one of the coolest things ever. But there are also 8 golden balls for his 8 Ballon d'Ors, 3 stars for his 3 World Cups, and a bunch of other stuff, because he's just won that many trophies. The goat is also sitting on navy blue and dark red tiles, because his years with Barcelona are what truly made him the goat. But to finish the video, I actually want to talk about the US national team jersey set, because there's low-key a lot more going on here than people realize. For one, the set comes with both a male and female minifigure to represent the men's and women's team. They also have their home and away jerseys, but what's cool about this is the number on them. LEGO shows it as being 26 in the promo pics for obvious reasons, but it comes with a sticker sheet with numbers 0 through 99, so you can put whatever number you want on both jerseys. Just like the World Cup logo set, this one is also supposed to be displayed, so it comes with the same stand that can turn into a hook for the wall. But these newer sets aren't even the first of their kind. LEGO's been making World Cup sets for decades, but most people don't actually know how it started. They think it started in 2000 with the sports theme, but LEGO released a full wave of sets for France '98. However, it was through Shell gas stations and Merlin in the UK. They made all sorts of sets, but the only real selling point was the World Cup. They were all in the town theme, which is known for its simplicity, so it's not like anything they made later on. But the first set from this run is worth knowing about, because it really shows how strange this era was. The goals and linemen set came with 2 nets, flags, cards, 3 referee minifigs, and not a single player. The box art even shows a referee giving a red card to someone we can't see, and as weird as it is, this is where LEGO soccer began. But it's not even the weirdest set in this wave. That title goes to the police unit set because it's based on actual riots. 3 of the 4 minifigures are cops, and the other one is the guy they're trying to arrest, who LEGO just named Hooligan. It may seem weird and honestly not very kid-friendly, but this was a real problem during France '98. In England's match against Tunisia in Marseille, English fans rioted for 3 days and injured 32 people, and this was literally their first game. Clearly, LEGO was strapped for ideas to make a set based on something like this, but the polybags make this even more obvious. They released 8 of them for a bunch of different countries, and all they had were a minifigure and a sticker sheet, besides 2 that had a ball. And the weird part was they were region locked, but not the way you think. You see, the bags had the exact same minifigure inside no matter where you bought them. What changed were the sticker sheets. If you bought one in England, you got English stickers. If you bought in Germany, you got German stickers, and so on. It was like this for every country, and if you didn't live in them, you got the generic world stickers instead. So unless you knew a guy in a lot of different places, you weren't gonna get anything specific. But this is just the 1998 wave. The sets in 2000 were a new era. LEGO realized they couldn't sell sets off the World Cup gimmick alone, so they added what's kept them alive for all these years: play features, and there were a lot of them. Spring-loaded shooting mechanics, movable goalkeepers, and way more. LEGO had never done anything like this before, and since these sets were before iPads and Game Boys, LEGO made them portable, which made them even more enticing. They didn't pull this idea from thin air though. A company called Subbuteo had just made table soccer games and was doing really well with them, so LEGO translated it into bricks, and at the time, it was really popular. But the most popular set from this era was the shoot and score set with Zinedine Zidane. He was the star of the show in the '98 finals, scoring 2 goals he made with his head. He was the undisputed star player of the team, so the fact that LEGO was even able to make a set of him is pretty crazy. Naturally, Zidane's minifigure looks pretty old now. The new ones have skin colors, cooler faceplates, and captain's patches. But LEGO never made sets of real people back then, and Zidane won the Ballon d'Or that year, so this was pretty nuts. But if you look up LEGO Shoot and Score, 2 sets will actually come up, because LEGO made a different one with an unnamed player. Can you guess which one is more valuable now? Naturally, it's Zidane's, but they were the same price when they came out. So I guess this is before LEGO realized they could tax us for licensed sets. But like we saw with the Hooligan set, this was also before LEGO was extremely family friendly, because there's an X-ray of a broken knee in the Super Sports coverage set. At first, it looks completely innocent. There's a camera guy, a sign for the shop, but then there's also a sign for X-rays, and obviously someone got injured. But even crazier is LEGO promoted the set around injuries. The box art shows someone being carried on a stretcher. Injuries are obviously a big part of this game, but there's no way it should be a selling point for a kid's toy. LEGO wasn't completely stupid though, because they did include a real soccer ball with the team transport set. It had LEGO branding all over it, and the set even came with 6 minifigures. But there's actually something wrong with the ball. Among the LEGO branding, there's a minifigure that doesn't actually exist. Apparently, he's never been made in real life, so he only exists on this ball. It's definitely pretty weird, but there's something even weirder hiding in plain sight. Look at the sponsors on the Championship Challenge set. Notice anything? Yeah, they're all fake besides Adidas. Since this released in 2000, LEGO didn't have anywhere near the amount of partners they do now. Adidas was partnered with FIFA, so they were the only one LEGO could put on here, and to fill space, they just used a bunch of their own stuff, which is pretty funny. But there's something else going on here that definitely isn't. This set got a second version in 2002, and that version got 4 different variants, some of which were region locked. The minifigures from the original challenge set and the second version are all on unnamed teams with random jerseys. But these other variants had the national teams of different countries that you could only buy in their country. The most popular one is the French version, since they won the World Cup in '98 and the Champions League in 2000. It's easy to find online, but this next variant is not. LEGO also made a version for Bayern, but it's so underdocumented that every picture shows the minifigs from the Challenge 2 set. Just like the polybags, these Challenge set variants were all identical besides the stickers. There were French stickers in the French set and German ones in the Bayern set. We just don't know what they look like. The last variant is a lot easier to find because it doesn't share the same set number, and it's actually of the American national team. But then there's the Japanese soccer team set, which takes the underdocumentation thing to a whole new level. It actually came out a year before the ones I just talked about, but there are genuinely only a few pictures of it online, and it doesn't even come up on Brick Economy. This doesn't make any sense because Japan co-hosted the World Cup a year later, so you'd think a set of their national team would be really popular. Obviously, the main focus of this wave was France '98 and the GOAT Zidane, but there was another part that doesn't get covered as much: the women's team. LEGO made one set to represent them, so it had a lot of minifigures and a pretty big sticker sheet with 4 different countries on it. This is the only LEGO set from back then that even acknowledges the women's team, but it also had the most female minifigures in any LEGO set. Women weren't represented that well in LEGO back in the day, so 6 in one set was genuinely a lot. Since then, they've made sets with as many as 10, so this was kind of an experiment back then, but not like the Coca-Cola theme. This was something totally different. It was a special theme made for the 2002 World Cup, and it was never meant to go further than that. LEGO made 30 little polybags of different things you might see at a World Cup match. I mean, one of them is a 19-piece hot dog cart, so it was genuinely completely random. This isn't even the full story though. All 30 of these polybags were exclusive to Japan, and you couldn't buy them at a LEGO store. They came with bottles of Coke in vending machines, and you never knew which one you were gonna get. That's right, LEGO was doing blind bags 8 years before CMF came out. And yes, there were chase figures. They were rightfully called Secret Sets A and B, and they both had cooler versions of the already cool Coca-Cola soccer players. Set A had a golden version, and Set B had a silver version, but funnily enough, the silver one is actually more valuable. Now, unfortunately, I have no idea how rare they actually were, but LEGO makes stuff for regular soccer too, not just the World Cup, and there are definitely cool things to find. The Old Trafford set from 2020 was the first realistic LEGO football stadium ever made, and if you look at the real one, there's always a banner somewhere that says 20 Legend. But what does this even mean? Well, it refers to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who's now a manager, but played for Man United from 1996 to 2007. 1999 was their biggest year ever, because they completed a treble, which is where you win the Premier, the FA, and the Champions League all in 1 year. Ole scored the winning goal in the Champions League, completing the treble, so Man United made a play on words with his jersey number and legend to honor him. He's an integral part of the club's history, so of course LEGO included 20 Legend in their set. Now, this stadium has renovations all the time, and the only thing left from the original 1910 version is the Sir Bobby Charlton stand. May he rest in peace. He played for Man United from 1956 to 1973 and held the record for the most goals scored until Rooney broke it in 2017. He's a legend to the club just like Ole, so obviously LEGO included his stand in their version. But do you see the white headlight brick right below it? This actually represents the old tunnel the players walked out of until 1993. That year, they made a tunnel in the corner, but the old tunnel is still there in real life, and LEGO represented it with one piece, which is pretty impressive. LEGO's also made Camp Nou and Bernabeu, which both have interesting stuff going on. So let's start with Camp Nou. This set came out in 2021, and the scoreboard says 5-0 with Barcelona as the winner. This is referencing the best day in Barcelona fans' lives, and the worst in Real Madrid's. This is one of the biggest rivalries in soccer, and in 2010, Barcelona beat Real Madrid on their own turf, 5-0. It's one of the most discussed matches in history, so honestly, it'd be weird if LEGO didn't put it on the scoreboard. The Bernabeu scoreboard has Real Madrid winning 3-0, which might be referencing the famous Wolfsburg comeback, when Ronaldo scored twice in 86 seconds, then got a hat trick with a free kick. It's by far their most famous 3-0 win. But if you're a Real Madrid fan, you probably noticed that LEGO's version is old. You see, when LEGO released this set, the Bernabeu was in the middle of a 1.76 billion euro renovation, and they didn't finish until 2023. LEGO's version came out in 2022, and the renovations were way too big for LEGO to start over. First of all, the entire outside looks completely different, but they also added a retractable roof, a retractable pitch, a screen that wraps around the entire stadium, and way more. Making all this in LEGO is definitely possible, but it's expensive, and they would have had to push back the set's release if they wanted to include this stuff. It already had 5,876 pieces, making it the 8th biggest LEGO set ever made at the time. So adding all this new tech and the bigger roof would have taken that number way higher. But what's your favorite LEGO World Cup set? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.